First question is from Mads6847, and it's from Chengi, your video, These Behaviors Scare Men Off.
Oh.
Right. And she says, she says, "Hi, Chengi. What if I don't text him enough? Guys always complain I seem uninterested. I just don't like texting or feel the need to be in touch that much."
That's such a great question. Yeah, to hit that subscribe button, because if you're anything like me, I will watch the best content, completely forget to subscribe and move on because, well, the video is over. So if you're like me, make sure you subscribe right away. And if you do like, only if you like this podcast and the content and the conversation here today, please like. If you don't like it, the thumbs down works just as well. But whatever you do, leave us a comment, leave us a question, because you never know, we might be having a conversation about your comment or your question in our next podcast. And we chose that because
yes,
because a lot of women feel this way. You know, texting is not the number one primary way of women communicating, so that's perfectly natural. The feminine likes to actually speak because we fall in love with our ears, you know, and this is something that could really help the gentleman. You don't understand that there's a resonance in your voice.
Yes.
There's a resonance in the male voice that turns on the feminine. And if you know how to use your voice, man, you know. The players know. The players that are watching, they know that if they know how to use their voice really, really well, you can captivate a woman because the feminine falls in love with her ears.
Yes.
And unfortunately, texting is not to do with the ears, it's to do with the eyes and comprehension. And so it's a very masculine form of communicating. And I think a lot of men obviously favor it because it is a very masculine form of communicating. So you are not unusual here, Mad6847. You're very normal, you know, unless you're me. And texting is very efficient, but that's because I'm in my masculine working, you know. But yes, we do prefer to hear a man's voice in general. However, you know, you also have to understand that because the feminine is seated energy, the feminine is passive, is patient, and is vulnerable energy. And this is the work of Dr. Pat Allen, who's done an extensive amount of work with the feminine and masculine. And to me, as far as I'm concerned, the only work I'm interested in finding out, because she's dedicated her life to the science of understanding, you know, feminine energy and masculine energy in the context of transactional communication and in the context of relationships. So she's the one person that I would recommend everybody study the work of Dr. Pat Allen. So according to Dr. Pat Allen, the feminine is passive, patient, and vulnerable. And I think if you are a feminine woman, that is going to feel, that's going to sound right, right? And that is this desire to be pursued. That's such a love need for the feminine. And so I always say to men when I'm coaching men, I'm like, when you ask us to chase us back, and the woman, like, you know, men are like, you know, no one should chase anybody, we should be chasing each other. Again, part of that stuff we're talking about in the other episode of not quite understanding how things really do work. You know, when a man, and this happens to me too, if a man leans back and says, well, I've texted her 4 times, I'm not going to text her today because I want to see if she likes me. Now, before I was a relationship expert, before I knew dynamics, I would be so confused. I would be like, huh? Why hasn't he texted me? You know, he's sitting at home doing, I want to check if she really likes me, because again, men don't know the pointers.
Yes.
Because a feminine woman likes you when she's receptive and available. So when you ask her out and she's like, yes, I'd love to do that, she likes you.
Yes.
If she's making time to see you, honey,
yeah,
she likes you.
Yes.
She doesn't necessarily like you because she's pursuing you back or texting you back or doing these things back, which is where, again, with the whole femininity in men movement, men have been given these false indicators of a woman's interest in them. And so they think, well, if she calls me too, if she gives to me too, she must really like me.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. The reason that has come about is because women who have a lot of trauma and therefore sit in their masculine energy are very comfortable. In fact, they're conditioned to pursue. And because there are more of those women than they are the kind of black swan women who are more elite, who've worked on themselves, I would say black swans are kind of 5% of the human population, male and female, people who have really elevated themselves, worked on themselves, gone to therapy, really worked on themselves, a very small percentage of humans that would identify as black swans. The rest of the world, what we're working with here is anxiety, anxious attachment styles, people with trauma, with, different attachment styles. And we're dealing with people who are wounded.
Yes.
And the number one key indicator for a man when he's seeing a woman, if you want to see how wounded she is, it's how much she pursues you.
Yes.
But if you're not taught right, you're going to think she likes me.
Yeah.
She doesn't like you. She is seeking to fill a void and a wound that she thinks you represent. So she will never like you. When a woman truly likes you, she suffers the burden of waiting for you. And that's painful.
Yes. Burden.
To wait for a man to call when you'd rather just call him.
Yes.
To wait for him to invite you on a date when you'd rather just plan it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It takes a feminine woman who's seated in an energy, who truly loves herself, respects herself in the same way that men should love themselves and respect themselves, to say, you know what, I'm going to trust in the character of my suitor, that he's a man who knows what he wants, and that if it's me he wants, I'm going to trust that in his timing, in the way that he chooses to pursue me, he will pursue me. So I'm going to rest in my confidence that I've chosen the right suitor. So as women, when we are feminine in a world where women are being taught to be masculine in the context of equality, okay, what happens is we start to feel like the odd ones out.
Yes.
Right. We start to feel like, I have a heart. No, honey, you are in your feminine. It's very natural that you're not going to like texting. That a feminine woman does, and it's very natural.
Yeah.
But you're kind of asking this question as if, is there something wrong with me?
Yes.
What if I don't? No, there's nothing wrong with you. You are a feminine energy woman. It's a little bit like the chicken that was raised amongst the eagles, right?
Yeah.
You remember the story of the chicken and the eagles, and the eagle the egg of the eagle sort of went to the chicken coop, for those of you who don't know, and therefore was raised amongst the chickens. But the eagle had this desire to fly and soar, and the chickens were like, we don't fly. And so a black swan is very much the same. The black swan existence is being an eagle in the chicken coop, right? So we have now normalized masculinity in women, and now as a feminine woman, you feel odd.
Yes.
How come I don't want to pursue?
Yes.
And then we've normalized masculine energy in women, so that men are like getting annoyed with her, because I'm getting the impression that men are getting annoyed because they're like, how come you don't text me too? It says guys always complaining.
Yeah.
I seem uninterested.
Yes.
Why? Because they've been taught, well, she has to pursue you too. If she's not pursuing you, if she's not texting you. So now men are now dating, guys are now dating masculine energy women and then complaining, women are not feminine enough. But when we are being feminine, which is leaning back and letting you pursue, you perceive that as a lack of interest. So the woman is confused.
Yes.
The man is confused.
Yes.
We're all confused. And that's why we're here to educate you. Because an education is what we need, isn't it? So you're perfectly normal, but you do have to operate within a world that thinks differently. And we also have to be lenient, and we have to be understanding of the context that men are trying to court women, where the rules have been thrown out of the door. I've heard people say, let's stop talking about feminine and masculine. It's just putting people in boxes. And I'm like, it is the key to harmony. And if we don't master it, we're never going to understand why the other person is acting some kind of way.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
That's so true.
We're going to think they're uninterested.
Yes.
No, this is how you identify a feminine woman.
Yes.
She is leaning back. Now, if she's uninterested, she will not answer your calls. She will take all day to respond. When you ask her out on a date, she's going to make excuses, or she's going to make demands. Take me to the 5-star restaurant. If she likes you, wherever you invite her, she's just going to be happy to come along because she's receptive, and you will know she's interested when you are together. She's going to be warm, she's going to be welcoming, she's going to be inviting, she's going to make you feel great. That's a feminine woman showing you, I like you. I respond to you. I respond to your advances. And so you were perfectly fine. However, just to give everybody a guide as to what we should do. If you are a feminine energy woman, we operate here at the Black Swan Relationship Academy in a 3-to-1, 2-to-1 ratio. Okay, so what that means is, because we are in a modern world and we're not going to change every man and make him masculine, we're not going to be able to reach every single man and teach him this unless you share this video to every man, and every woman. But I run a 3-to-1 ratio, 2-to-1 ratio, and that is for every 3 times a man initiates, you initiate the 4th time.
Yeah.
So if he initiates a call or a text 3 times, then you can initiate. If he initiates dates 3 or 4 times, you can initiate. So if you've been on about 3 dates and he's initiated all those 3 days before he loses heart,
Yes.
okay, and thinks
Yes.
she's not interested,
Yes.
you can say to him, I'll tell you what, why don't I plan the 4th date?
Yes.
Right? Because that's going to help him along, because he's not going to understand the feminine being the feminine. So we're going to help him along, okay? Now, what I say is you can do the 3-to-1 if this man is masculine. How are we going to tell he's masculine? If this guy is asking you for a date, he's not dilly-dallying, talking to you for 2 weeks, going left and right. Masculine men get to the point.
Yes.
If he's like, I'd love to take you out for dinner, when are you available? And he knows, he's figured out where you would like to go because you're having conversations, and it's like, maybe you say, I like the Italian, and he says, you know what, there's a lovely Italian restaurant at this place, I'd love to take you there, when are you available? And you give him your availability, and he plans it and he picks you up. This is this is a full masculine man. He's going to begin to protect immediately. That means he cares how you're going to get there. Would you like me to come and pick you up? Do you feel comfortable with me picking you up? You can say yes, no. Again, there's a whole dating playbook here, girls,
Yes.
at the Black Swan Relationship Academy.
Yes.
That is hours of videos teaching you step by step how to date. But again, 3 to 4, this is a guy who will pay and not make a meal of who's paying. He's not going to look at the bill for 10 minutes.
And work out what you ate.
Yeah, and start... You
Yeah,
have a
you
coffee,
had
that'll be
that.
£2.45.
I only had 1 potato, so I'm not paid for the potato.
You ordered the crisp.
Yeah.
That's not a masculine man. Masculine men, they just take charge. They take care. They're caretakers. They just move in the world very differently. So you're gonna know you with a masculine man because he's gonna pay for the date. He's gonna be a gentleman, and he's not gonna make you feel awkward for not paying.
Yes.
And again, in the dating playbook, we talk about all of that etiquette when the bill comes. So there's all that in there. But once you have established this man is masculine, and he's obviously repeated this 3 times, the first date and the second date, and he's masculine, he keeps leading, then that's 3-to-1 ratio. If the man is in between masculine and feminine, sometimes he's masculine, sometimes he's feminine, like a lot of, which is the classic modern day man.
Yes.
He goes into masculine, feminine, right? If you're dating that person who is masculine, feminine, and you're going to tell, because when you go on a date, the bill's going to sit there for a while. He's not going to naturally feel responsibility to pay it and be your host. He's asked you on a date, which is being a host, right? But he won't pay he won't full on lead and pay the bill and be a good host. He will, and when I say good, I mean in terms of etiquette, in terms of gentlemanly and ladylike behavior. Okay, so I'm not saying he's a good person because he pays. I'm just saying that it's good manners for a gentleman to pay for a lady when he has initiated a date with her. And so if he's kind of dilly-dallying, the bill is on the table, he's looking at you to see if you're going to go into your purse and pretend to bring out money, all these things, even if he pays in the end, the hesitation, the lack of certainty, or the guy that says, where would you like to go on a date? When would you like to go? A guy that moves with hesitation is a man who is tethering between masculine, feminine, or he sits firmly in his feminine. That guy, you're going to know quite early because he doesn't lead with clarity. Once you have established this is the guy I'm dating and you still choose to go on a date with him, which is your prerogative, you're going to run a 2-to-1 ratio because he won't survive the third date. He would have lost heart by the second, right?
Yes.
If you're not offering to plan the third date,
Yeah.
he would have lost heart. Now, there's a little special thing that we do here, the Black Swan Relationship Academy, which I'm not going to share because that is only for the insiders, okay?
Yes.
And you can be an insider, and all you have to do is obviously, make contact with us, and we'll be happy to tell you the secret, or get the dating playbook, and you'll get the secret. But there is something that we do on the third date that can help a man out as well. So even if he's masculine or feminine, there is something that we do here. It's called the third date token, and that will help him know that you are interested because he's tethering. So 2-to-1 ratio. So he will initiate twice. So he will text you twice. You will text him. You will initiate text twice. You will initiate the third. If it's super masculine, he's gonna initiate 3 times, and you will initiate 1 time. So that is whichever the case is, you don't want to ever outgive a man, because even if men are like, yeah, 50-50, they don't fall in love with women who outgive them. They sleep with those women. They play with those women. They even make those women girlfriends to maintain their sexual stability, because I don't think women understand how men are concerned with sexual stability.
Yes.
They want to have, sex quite stable in their lives. And so they will even girlfriend you, but they're not falling in love with you, and they're not going to marry a woman who outgives them, because that is too masculine.
Yes.
That's you kind of now being his man,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I always say, shy away from 50-50, even if it's him doing 60 and you doing 40. Always let the man feel that he's giving more.
Yes.
And if he really is upset about that and he doesn't like that, then he is a man who is seated in predominantly his feminine energy, which means he needs to be with a masculine energy woman. He needs to be with a woman who is most likely, there are 15% of women in the world that are naturally masculine in terms of their biology and everything. 85% of women will be masculine because they're wounded.
Yes.
So that, and vice versa. So, if a man wants a woman to do as much as him or more than him, he will need a masculine energy woman, and he will have to surrender respect